from the Crypt.
What is up, freaks? Welcome back to Tales from the Crypt. It's been a minute since we last met here on the internet. Since we last met, our last guy, Santiago, if you guys caught the last episode, won a big award. MIT, their tech review magazine, awarded Santiago with Innovator of the Year. Very proud of Santiago and very honored to have had the pleasure to interview him. But this week we're changing pace a little bit. It's been a little chaotic in the Bitcoin world. There's a lot going on, a lot of forks, a lot of drama, a lot of bickering. I'm sure a lot of you are confused. There's been a lot of news in the mainstream, a lot of big hedge fund managers coming out in favor of Bitcoin, others coming out against Bitcoin. I'm sure there's a lot of confusion in the air. So to help with this confusion, I brought in a couple of guys that might be in similar shoes as you guys. Two sort of newbies to the space, people who have recently invested in Bitcoin.
I don't want to say recently with me. I've been in for like 8 months. I'm almost a year in.
8 months is like 3 years in crypto. So you've got some experience, but we have somebody else with us, another employee at Barstool Sports.
The Baron of Bitcoin himself. A band is here to look for Nate? For the Baron of Bitcoin? There is a band here to look for the Baron of Bitcoin. No, you can't shake your head. No, you got to go out there.
I didn't invite anybody.
There's literally a band here. The Baron of Bitcoin. He has so
Come
much
on,
Bitcoin.
Nate.
He's been robbing people for Bitcoin. Okay. We're going to have PFT jump in for the Baron of
PFT's
Bitcoin.
jumping in here.
Hey, yeah, I'm taking over for Nate real quick. So what are we talking about, Kirk Cousins?
We are talking about how Nate is the new Baron of Bitcoin. How he wrote about Bitcoin 5 years ago, and now it just started to soar.
He won't shut up about it. Every morning I come in and he tells me what Bitcoin's at, like I invested it. And I'm like, okay, thanks, Nate. He's like, it's up another 10%. I was like, I don't care. I don't have stock in Bitcoin. You do. You want me to congratulate you? That's what he's fishing for every morning.
Nate just got into Bitcoin. For a guy who's talked so much about it, he's been on the side. He's a fucking Monday morning quarterback. You know about those guys.
Got the
he's not
fever.
a player.
He's got the usual fever. This happens to everybody when you first get in. You're bragging to your friends, and
a lot of his brags are basically like, I wanted to invest in Bitcoin 5 years ago. Yeah, and then he'll stop by my desk like 3 or 4 times a day and be like, just tell me different amounts of money that he could have invested in Bitcoin and how much that amount of money would be worth today. He'd be like, oh, so I had $500 and I invested in Under Armour, and instead, if I invested in Bitcoin, it would be worth like $500,000. I'm like, cool. Then he'll come back later and be like, then I had $700 I invested in this. We're just talking about your investment strategy.
your
Nate.
poor investment
Nate,
strategy.
did you know that if you take a penny and you double it every single day for a month, at the end of the month, you're going to have $5.4 million. How about that? That's more than a Bitcoin.
That's what exponential growth looks like.
Who's the band?
I don't know. I have no idea.
So wait, so we just got interrupted because you had a
I don't think so. I like what we just got there. I think we're
Baron
going to
of
keep it going.
Bitcoin is now signing bands too. He has a band. So we have.
We were in the middle of recording a podcast. Fucking Frankie Borelli is supposed to be a professional and not barge into a studio when people are recording. Goes, there's a band here to see you. I go out there. They go, yeah, I don't know who they are. I don't know what band that is.
But like, why are they looking for you? Are you
I
signing people?
know. I don't know who they are.
I got it.
I don't know.
I got it.
This is a cold call. I think the band is cold.
Yeah, that was definitely a knock on the door.
No, they want to get going.
All right, PFT, can you go find out what band that is, please?
Did you not ask him?
No. I thought it'd be who the fuck are you? Like, I thought it'd be like kind of like embarrassing.
They didn't introduce themselves?
He introduced himself by his like first name,
Nate,
but I wasn't paying attention.
Did you meet this guy drunk at like a
No,
concert last
they literally
weekend?
just said. He literally said we just barged
to
in.
be the next Jimmy Iovine right there, and you didn't do it.
Ooh.
I have more important things to do, like Bitcoin.
What if this band is next Bitcoin?
Whoa! What if you could get on this band?
I could have invested in this band 5 years ago.
Nate, you want to know what's going to happen, PFT? He's going to be telling you about this band in 3 years, which he had a chance to have this band on his fucking payroll. They came here for you. They came here for you, out of all people.
We're gonna have to.
All right, we're going to get back on the tracks here, people.
I'm not joking. Can we just like fucking get rid of all that? That was so unprofessional.
No, that was actually the best part.
that-
This is Barstool. This is the whole point of it. We had a fucking guy who just won an MIT award. We have Nate, the Baron of Bitcoin, Nate, who's now repping bands
Apparently.
through the office.
So
we always We always make fun of me for doing side deals and being on the fucking fringe. You are living on the fringe.
To recap what just happened is we're doing a Bitcoin podcast. Frankie Borelli comes barge into the studio saying there's a band here to see you. I go out there. There's a band here to see me. I don't know what band this is. I did not invite a band to the office, but they're here apparently to see me. And then I said, fuck this. I have more important things to do, like invest in more Bitcoin. Let's go, boys.
And this is how we get back on topic.
It's perfect segue. Boys.
I can't believe the Baron of Bitcoin is also running a fucking side deal with bands now.
Apparently
it's okay.
so.
No.
I like it. You want to diversify.
Nate,
You want to be
Nate,
diversified.
Nate, I love people doing side deals and like running off and just being one with the fucking world and out there just making money and making deals and not worrying about what fucking Portnoy says or not worrying about what the Sherman group, nothing. You just out there being you. I can't believe the Baron of Bitcoin is now into talent management. You know how hard talent management is? That's why we're getting out. That's why we're in Bitcoin.
Lou, if they can make me 800% over the next 3 months, I'll sign them up right now. But I looked them in the eyes. They don't have it.
They don't?
That's why I'm in here and not talking to them.
Well, I'm glad to have you here because
Happy to be here. Love Bitcoin.
somebody's been in Bitcoin for almost 5 years now. It's always interesting to see new people come into the space. There's been waves after wave after wave.
I've been blogging about Bitcoin since like my second month on the job. And my first blog about
been
Bitcoin...
blogging or you've blogged twice about
No,
it?
my first blog about Bitcoin was in November of 2013. I was hired in October 2013. My first blog about Bitcoin was November of 2013. And I wrote like I'm all in on Bitcoin. It was when it was like at 800. I was like I'm all in on Bitcoin. And I bought 0 Bitcoins. And then I have a G chat to my buddy who has a bunch of Bitcoin. When it went down to 550, I said I need to buy Bitcoin. It's at 550. I need in. You know how many I bought? 0. I blogged when it was at like 2,000. I said now's the time.
Why didn't you buy at these points? Were you just complacent and didn't get to it, or was it like you didn't think it was going to work out?
I am a lot like the people who know right now what Bitcoin kind of is, but just don't know enough to jump into it.
All
like,
right, so
there's a lot of people out there who tell themselves every day, I want to get into Bitcoin, and then never do. That was me.
So how do you, right now at this point, how would you describe Bitcoin how do you understand it?
So I see it as mainly an investment. So instead of doing Bitcoin, I got into buying stocks. Like I'm very interested in investment. I know you're not supposed to just like pick stocks and like buy them, but I found it fun to do. I found it
picking
interesting.
stocks with his heart.
Yeah.
He had a little heart.
And
I only had one heart play ever. It was Twitter, and that was a bad play.
Mine was Apple at 92, and I've made 84% on it.
That's a good trade.
So, yeah, I'm very happy with that one. I also bought Under Armour at 42, and now it's at 11, so missed on that one. So I see it as an investment, kind of like stocks. Buy low, sell high. That's how I see Bitcoin primarily for me right now, but the more I read about it, what it could be and what it can become, that's why I'm so obsessed with it.
What do you think it could be, and what do you think it will become?
I mean, I just hope it becomes what, like, the really smart people think it can become, which is like currency 2.0, pretty much.
Yeah. So, like we discussed with Pierre Fries.
So can we just say something, Nate? I'm going to give you the old Bezos quote. Next time, it's better to be right than it is to be smart. You were right, so just dive in.
I know.
Mm-hmm.
I know.
Yeah, and so I like that you said currency 2.0. It's interesting. So what we have now is we have this alien technology in our hands, and it is in a digital, perfect monetary system, and it is directly competing with our central bank system that we have right now. So it is taking on big dogs. It's coming after the largest institution in the world, which is money. And
it's interesting because you have quotes from guys at like JP Morgan who say publicly like, we're not going to buy Bitcoin, and then a day later, you see that they just bought $1 million worth of Bitcoin as an investment. So Wall Street,
that wasn't the actual fun though.
Well, I know, but the guys will openly say, to protect their ass at their jobs, that we're not Bitcoin guys, and then privately they're buying Bitcoin. So when Wall Street picks up on it, that's how you know that you're in something good.
And that's what's interesting to me with the bank. I got a lot of banker friends, and they're not allowed to touch it. Like
they're not allowed to.
They're not allowed to like publicly, or like some of them do, but they do it in ways
since I've been talking a lot about
Bitcoin
on Twitter recently, I've gotten a good amount of DMs from people in the the banking sector who are just like, we do believe in this. Like, we think that this is something that I don't think people know for sure if it's a bubble or not. That word gets thrown around a lot, but the smart people and like the big Wall Street people, they at least believe in it for now. But as we know with Bitcoin, like hour to hour, minute to minute, day to day, anything can happen with this thing.
It is the most fun market I've ever witnessed in my life and followed.
And so back to the stocks things, I just look back at how much I put into Under Armour and how much I put into other random ass stocks. If I just put that money into Bitcoin, oh buddy, oh buddy,
You wouldn't be working here.
oh buddy,
Where would you be, Nate?
I'd be on a boat. I would just be in a boat in the south of France.
He's dying for a boat. The Baron of Bitcoin is dying for a boat right
Lou
now.
Dog, when we have boats, we're gonna think about this conversation when we're just like, hey, remember when all we wanted was a boat? Now we got two.
So if we want boats, we better invest more then, right now.
All we're doing is taking what's liquid and putting it into Bitcoin and saying a prayer.
All right. Let's not. This is not investment advice. Let's be
yeah.
clear on this.
We'll edit that
We are
out.
not fiduciaries at all, and I would caution against going all in.
I do too.
but
We'll edit that all out.
we keep it in. But like because that's the one thing about this. Like this sector, this space is so emotional. It drives emotions.
Yes.
It's very visceral. You can feel it as soon as people get hooked. They're
Yes.
hooked and they're falling down the rabbit hole. And that's why I wanted to bring you into the studio today. I realized I saw your Bitcoin post. Was that earlier this week?
Yes.
Thanks for shouting out the pod. That would have been great.
My bad.
I'm kidding.
Next time. When it hits 10K, in the next month or so, that's when we're going to...
It possibly could, but that's why I wanted to bring you in. What kind of questions do you have at this point? So you have been a passive observer for the last 4 years?
Yes.
You finally decided to take the dip in.
Yes.
I'm sure there's a bunch of things floating around above your head that you're trying to put together.
Yes.
And you wrote down a few questions. And let's go over them. So I guess the first one, the most recent news that's been going on Bitcoin is the forks. Teams forking off and creating new chains, altcoins.
Can I stop for 1 second since this podcast is live? I thought on GDEX I could buy fucking like alts. Can I buy alts on GDEX?
No.
GDEX, that's Coinbase, so you can probably buy Litecoin and Ethereum. That's about it.
Fuck. So I gotta get another
You
fucking
got to
thing
get
set up.
Bittrex.
I have
Bittrex.
Bittrex. What other one besides Bittrex? Because I wrote on like Bittrex.
There's one.
I would try one like Changely, but you would have to download the altcoin wallets. There's
Ugh.
Yeah, so like Changely is an exchange where you don't keep it on an exchange. You literally, it's sort of like shapeshift.
We'll get into this later.
Yeah.
We could talk about this all day.
How
so
about
it's
you
good.
don't hijack the show?
I'm sorry, dude. I mean, what do you want me to do? We're trying to figure out. Listen, this is real life. You were having a band going. I'm trying to buy in real time.
Poloniex. That's the other one.
Poloniex. Yeah, be very, very careful with
This is where
the
I'm
exchanges. Like believe me, I had this hype, this feeling too in 2013, 2014. Like I was fucking trading alts, and this space is the Wild West. Like
That's why I don't want to do it.
that's if you're gonna trade alts, number one, make sure you know how to trade. You know how to manage risk and put in stop losses and take profits.
Right. I want to make that very clear. This is still like any investment can fall at any given time. You can't be stupid about it. Like it's a lot of fun, but it's so swingy and it's so just like.
Well, that's why the meme hodl's out there. It's that whole meme started from a post on BitcoinTalk.org where the guy was like, "I literally can't trade these swings. I'm gonna hodl." He misspelled hold. I'm gonna hold for the foreseen future because it's not even worth playing the swings because in the long run it's just going up and to the right.
This is actually one of our questions. Let's just get in. You're right. We always pivot here, Nate. This is one of our questions. Like the alt market. Like I know you're kind of against it, Marty. So like, why? Like, if people do want to play in the alt space, give them the steps to the alt space. Like, how are we gonna play in the alt space? I own 2 alts. But, like, I still am not great at all. It's like I get very nervous when I'm like, this stuff still has me very nervous besides Bitcoin.
Again, going back to if you're going to do this stuff, make sure you know how to trade. If you don't know how to trade, you're going to get your dick pushed in. Like, don't even try it. But if you are a good trader and you are playing the alts game, a lot of the people that do trade alts, their main objective within that trading is to stack more Bitcoin. So they're basically playing the price swings so they can stack more Bitcoin at the end of the day. Buy low, sell high, and stack Bitcoin, and then do it all over again. Alts, yeah. So for me, again, going back to we have this alien technology in our hands. It's very new. It's under a decade old, and Bitcoin specifically, in my opinions, and probably most people's opinion, Bitcoin Core specifically, that implementation has some of the smartest developers in the world working on it. And as we're finding out as time goes on, these blockchains are very hard to scale. They're very hard to work with at the protocol level. And basically the value proposition that altcoins have provided, and altcoins is sort of a word that some people in the crypto space don't like, because it connotates that they're a currency, but not all of them are currencies per se. But their value proposition is that they're iterating on Bitcoin and making it a better incentive system. Maybe they have different mining algorithms that create a more fair mining playing field. But at the end of the day, it is software. And for me specifically, especially with this decentralized technology, it all comes down to having competent devs on your team. And in my opinion, from what I've witnessed over the last 5 years, the Bitcoin team has the only competent devs that can make these blockchains scale and work without any downtime.
So, piggybacking on that, a lot of people, myself included, I guess, know that alts are like the Wild West. We know there's a lot of money to be made in alts. One guy explained it to me in a way. He goes, it's like giving you 8-1 on a coin flip. Like, you won't always be right on alts, but most of the time you will be. Is that a fair way of looking at them?
It depends on what type of market cycle it is. So, yes, we've been in an alt bull market for the last 14 months probably. Actually, I'm not certain, but we've been in an alt bull market. It's cooled down a little bit since the summer. But again, like I said, I was doing this shit in 2013, 2014, and the alt party can stop overnight. Like, when the music stops in alts, they're so illiquid because their market caps aren't as big as Bitcoin's.
Okay, so let's ask this question then. So you're saying that, because this is something I just don't know, 2013, 2014, you were trading different alts than there are alts right now. So you weren't trading Monero, you weren't trading, were you? Or like, what were you into? Just because, like, I'm trying to figure out, like, you know what I mean? It's like, if you're saying there's total different alts, I'm like, okay, then this can just fucking pop up anytime. And like, what the fuck are we even doing with our money?
So I would argue, like, ICOs right now, they're what alts were in 2013, 2014. They offer a certain value proposition. Back then, Litecoin, I bought some Litecoin back in the day. Monero, I forget what Monero was released. I think it might have been 2014, but I'm not positive. But yeah, I messed around with alts for like a year, lost a shit ton of Bitcoin, and was like, all right, I'm done doing this, because again, like I said, once the alt party stops, once the record stops, the music stops, it's almost overnight that your value gets wiped out. And this will happen in 2014. And another reason to be cautious trading alts is because you have to do it through these exchanges, which are very susceptible to hacks. Mm-hmm. So I got a bunch of my shit jacked off an exchange.
So there is no real exchange that's good for alts right now.
I mean, they're safe ones, but it's like Nassim Taleb's The Life of a Turkey. Everything's getting good until the day it dies. It's good.
So what are the safest ones then at the moment? Just for the Tales from the Crypt fans, so they know, because you know there's some fucking people are. I mean, there's a lot of gamblers. I'm addicted to gambling. There's a lot of risky people in this world. So if they're going to be risky, like I like risk no matter what. So if we have risky people, where can they like be the safest?
I like Bittrex. I mean, going back, like I don't encourage anybody to trade alts, but if you're going to do it on a safe exchange. Bittrex has been well. From what I can tell from the traders I follow on Twitter, they like Trex. A lot of it, like Poloniex, has actually lost favor with a lot of people because they're a little sketchy. There was a lot of pump and dumps on Poloniex throughout the years. And then, like that exchange Changely I was saying, but you would have to download the wallet, and it's basically you deposit Bitcoin and it gets directly deposited into your personal wallet, which, in my opinion, is a good way to get into alts because you don't have that custodial risk with the exchange. But yeah, if you're going to get in, again, I stress this, make sure if you're going to trade this shit, make sure you know how to trade. And word to the wise, most of you motherfuckers aren't going to know how to trade.
Yeah,
I mean, I did it. I worked in that shit, and I still am like fucking worried. Like, it's scary as shit. So for anyone, like, unless you're like a next level person, like, you may not want to be like a regular Joe out there doing this shit, because it is like, it's fucking scary, man. Like, I don't know. Like, Neo got shut down in fucking China. It looked like it was going to 100, and then the second they shut down all the trading in China, it would just fucking die. If they took a nosedive, it was done.
Yeah.
So it's like anything can happen in the alt game.
Manage risk, never go all in. As always with Bitcoin, don't invest more than you're willing to lose. And I want to be extra cautious with this shit, because we're living in a time where the average American can't handle a $400 expense, like surprise expense. So don't go throwing your disposable income at this stuff if you need it to live. Definitely
I cannot stress that enough to the casual person out there who, if you want to get into Bitcoin just for the sweat of the swings, you don't have to buy a full Bitcoin. You don't have to buy half a Bitcoin. You can throw, $100-$200 at it. And I mean, Bitcoin's up 933% this year. So if you're just looking for the sweat of $100, $200, and you want to be in Bitcoin, please don't buy a full Bitcoin. Like, just get in for, if you just want to get in for the fun of it, so you can tell people that you have Bitcoin. I recommend it in that way, because I mean, $100 at the bar, $100 at Bitcoin. It's all.
Yeah, that's that's my advice. Drink less, save more, and that's the beauty of so.
But like if it's up 900% this year, we know damn well it could go down.
Definitely. I mean, and you would be. It's not going to go up forever. Like
of course not.
There's not obvious, but there is apparent trends. Bitcoin will go hyperbolic and then fall 60 to 80%, have a contracted bear market. But past results aren't indicative of future returns, and past returns aren't indicative of future results. Excuse me. It could keep going up. It probably not likely at this point. But with that being said, we have a lot of institutional money on the sidelines. You have things going on around the world, like the Catalan referendum in Spain, Zimbabwe right now, Venezuela, Lebanon and Saudi Arabia are getting into it.
So why you mentioned Zimbabwe, that was one of our questions. Why does a Bitcoin cost more in Zimbabwe than it does in America right now? Like how does that even work? Because
people are willing to pay the premium because their currency is so worthless.
So is the exchange taking it from these people? Or the
demand's so high on that Zimbabwean exchange that it's the price on
that
exchange.
So my question about that is, if Bitcoin's a decentralized currency, shouldn't it be the same across the globe no matter where you are?
That's a great question, and I'm not the best person to answer this, but the way I would describe it is yes. So Zimbabwe, in that community specifically, I believe it's one exchange in Zimbabwe.
So it's a localized Zimbabwe exchange.
Yes,
and it's probably the easiest one to use in Zimbabwe, so they have a premium on Bitcoin.
Yes, and I think it might be over the counter, so which means you're transacting directly with people and not going through an exchange. And those have historically been, if you look at OTC markets here in America, there's a big premium on them as well.
That makes sense.
And in Zimbabwe, the premium's even higher because it's such a dire situation there that these people want to get into an asset that can be a store of value for them.
But that's also, as sad as the news that coming out of Zimbabwe is, for Bitcoin investors, the fact that it can do something like that, if we're just talking about bottom line money, pretty good for us.
Yeah, I mean, that's what Bitcoin is. It's a hedge against the collapse of the modern monetary system. Pretty heavy, definitely very heavy shit, but sometimes you got to take the emotion out of it, take a step back. And
believe me, I have no emotion involved. I just want to get rich.
That's an emotion. That's an emotion.
Okay, no sad emotions.
I mean, I agree. It's literally like after Santi, shout out MIT Man of the Year. I'm just going to say MIT Man of the Year. I don't know what his fucking award was.
I like that. Innovator of the Year, but Man of the Year is good too.
MIT Man of the Year for Santi. What a fucking guy. What a super smart guy. Like, the world has fucked us. Like, and it's not even like the big banking world. Like, I forget the one guy I was following on Twitter. He was like, he was talking about how he had a 401k for $800, and it's basically losing money every day. Like it's losing money. He's like from his first
Oh
job.
yeah, Mike Dudas. On
Yeah.
Twitter, the dude from Button.
Yeah.
He was explaining how like they won't let him pull it out unless it's over 1,000. They're just eating fees
They're
until it
eating
goes
the
to zero.
fees, and it's like, what is this? What is this system that we built? And this is what Bitcoin's trying to do. It's trying to fix things that we've built this banking system, and especially, I mean, all over the world that has basically fouled the people. It really has. It's
Marty,
fouled us.
let me ask you this. Touching on the banking system, what do you think, just your opinion, obviously nobody knows, do you think it's more likely Wall Street embraces it or Wall Street tries to shut it down?
It's split right now. They'll never be able to shut it down. That's the thing. They might try. Well, I mean, Jamie Dimon's using FUD to talk people away from it, but so that's a good point. Like the banking community split. Like Jamie Dimon came out and said Bitcoin's a fraud. It's a tulip craze, and then Lloyd Blankenfein from Goldman Sachs comes out and says we see potential in this. So even within the banking community, there's no consensus. There's definitely different views, competing views, and again, this is a completely new asset class. This happens very, very few times in throughout the course of human history where you have a completely new asset class show up out of nowhere, and nobody knows how to deal with it. So we're all on a level playing field. Like we're just as cognizant of this as the bankers are.
What I find interesting is, like, let me just use my brother as an example. He was a finance major in college, smarter guy than I am, smart dude. Has like
Really?
Yeah, my brother's a smart dude.
Smarter than you?
Smarter than me.
I mean, you signed a band today up the street, so I don't know. But go ahead.
So yeah, that just shows you how smart he is. I don't think he knows one thing about Bitcoin, like not a thing. And he was a finance major, and he has a good job, lives a pretty decent life. How do we get your everyday guy to understand Bitcoin and crypto when people like us who study it every day, read about it every day, don't even understand it?
People like us. Go ahead.
It takes time. So it takes time. You gotta one step at a time sort of figure out. It's taken me, and I stress this in the newsletter. I stress this as much as I can. I'm by no means an expert. I've just been around this space for so long that I sort of understand it better than.
So isn't that a problem where you can hand somebody $1 and be like, this is worth $1? It takes 5 years to understand Bitcoin. Is that, would that be an issue moving forward?
No, I've mentioned this before on the pod, but there's a tweet out there by this dude, Neil Woodfine. He's based out of Beijing, and he said Bitcoin, if it's successful, will usher in the next enlightenment because people have to learn stuff like cryptography, game theory, economics, network effects, and stuff like that. It forces you to learn. So yes, it's going to take time for everybody to get to a level playing field, but it will be an overall benefit for society because we're learning.
Almost like another industrial revolution in a way, like
bigger.
That kind of level. Yes.
Bigger because it's person to person. You don't have these centralized third parties getting in the way of transactions. Like Pierre said in episode 2, we are disrupting 1/2 of every transaction on Earth, which is money. And we literally, as a species, as a human species, our brain is not evolved to the point where we can comprehend the amount of change this will bring. And that's what I'm trying to do with the newsletter, with this podcast, have everybody take a step back, be like, all right, holy shit, we've got this in our hands. This is going to not fuck things up, but it's going to change things in such a drastic way that we can't even comprehend it.
Like I feel, especially for the listeners of this podcast, like Thanksgiving's in a couple weeks. You go home.
It's in 4 days, 5 days.
4 days.
Whatever. You go home.
Either or.
And
6 days.
Your father asked you about Bitcoin. What would be your 3-minute explanation to how to get the 65 and up generation to understand exactly what it is?
Over 65. My parents are young. My parents aren't even 50 yet.
My parents are all this dirt.
Yeah, so
they're just fucking old.
For them, yeah. So for boomers, Bitcoin is most comparable to gold, as in it is a scarce asset that is finite and is a store of value over time. A lot of older older people like to have gold and silver as an investment. The old saying goes, an ounce of gold has been able to get you a nice suit throughout history. So in the Roman times, you could get a nice toga with an ounce of gold. Right now, you can get a nice suit with an ounce of gold. I think it's at like $1,300, and that's been true throughout time. So it's a nice store of value that the older generations are sort of used to as an investment, and that's sort of what Bitcoin is, but for the digital age. So if you're going to compare it to something, yeah.
And do you see an issue that? So someone like me, I like holding Bitcoin as an investment. I wouldn't want to spend it at a store because I feel like I would be losing value by spending it.
I know.
It's a great
I
segue.
just spent my first Bitcoin today, and
How
I
do
was
we-
very like, it gave me like,
Right.
This is
How do we get over that hump?
So happy you said that, because this is what we're going through right now in Bitcoin. So that's why we have Bitcoin Cash.
Perfect segue.
Is because Roger Ver and a group of contingency of miners and other stakeholders in the Bitcoin space have decided they were early adopters. And back when they got into Bitcoin in like 2010, 2011, transacting on the Bitcoin network, since there wasn't a lot of people using it, was very cheap. So you could send transactions for fractions of a penny, and you could buy coffee with Bitcoin. You can go and do it without worrying about paying exorbitant fees. And as more people adopted Bitcoin and came onto the network and the price rises, the fees are denominated in Satoshis and parts of a Bitcoin. So naturally, the amount of fees in US dollar amount or denominated in US dollar go up over time as more people come on. And that's a huge debate going on right now, is why are fees getting higher? And what a lot of people think, and what I agree with, is that this is just the natural progression of this technology. Is you have this network effect, you have people coming on, and just the nature of the protocol, like fees are gonna rise because it means there's more demand for Bitcoin, and it's just, you're seeing the fee market develop, and this is good for the network, I would argue, because it secures it in the long run. And then, so your point, when will it ever be where you can go to a store and buy coffee with it? So in economics, throughout history, any money that's ever been created, it sort of had to go through this continuum where it's a collectible first, where people like it. So Bitcoin in the beginning was a collectible. Like our boy Laszlo, when he bought the pizzas, he spent 10,000 Bitcoin just thinking, hey, I got this collectible. This dude's willing to like buy me pizzas with it. So I think that transaction was like established Bitcoin as a collectible. And then as you go through the continuum, you go from collectible to store of value, which is what Bitcoin is now. People invest in it, expecting it to appreciate throughout time. And then eventually you get to a medium of exchange where
Do you think that inflates the price when people, you hear about Bitcoin in the news and you're like, oh, I want to get involved in Bitcoin, with no intention of ever using it as a currency? It's more just like you can just show your buddy your phone, hey, look, I have half a Bitcoin.
I mean, that definitely helps. I mean, it definitely drives up the price if a lot of people are doing that. But the point is, so my investment thesis since the beginning is we're going to have a great rotation from fiat currencies into these cryptocurrencies. And as that rotation happens, obviously Bitcoin's price is going to rise. But at some point, like we talked about with Pierre, you have what's called hyper-Bitcoinization, where you sort of have this black hole effect where all the value in the fiat monetary system gets sucked into Bitcoin. And once hyper-Bitcoinization happens, that will drive Bitcoin's valuation up an obscene amount, and you'll get to like a level where you're able to use it as a medium of exchange, where
you won't feel so weird about
where the price
spending it.
Yes, where the price is going to be stable to a certain point. Yes. This is the theory.
Yeah.
And on top of that, there are second layer solutions coming out. One was almost I think they're getting to a beta, which is Lightning Network. And so these are the big debate right now, is should you have all these transactions on chain on the protocol, or should you try to push a lot of their transactions above the protocol so you're not stressing out the blockchain with a lot of data. So I would argue that it's smart to build second layer solutions that aren't as decentralized. But
Do you think the government would get involved in that?
some people think. But if, again, this revolves all around open source software.
Mm-hmm.
So right now, a lot of the tools being built on top of Bitcoin are open source projects, so anybody can contribute. And if the government were to try to co-opt something, there's so much peer review that they would get called out for trying to do anything.
A question that I've gotten a few times. So I've been like tweeting and blogging about Bitcoin a bit more recently since I've gotten obsessed with it.
I mean, when you become the baron of something, you better be in the world.
Yeah. So people want to know what stops either major corporations like like the big ones, the Microsofts, even like the Amazons who rely on like money coming in, like people spend billions of dollars on Amazon a day, or the U.S. government, which is basically a major corporation, from just creating their own crypto and forcing people not accepting Bitcoin, not accepting other cryptos besides those. Like, what's stopping the government from saying, hey, crypto is the future, but you have to use ours?
It defeats the whole purpose of the system.
I know, but which I get to a point, but couldn't they theoretically do it?
For it to happen, to destroy the Bitcoin network, you'd have to have every government around the world coordinating and doing it in one foul swoop, which I find highly unlikely. You can't even.
Could multiple countries come to an agreement that almost like how like the European Union came to use the euro?
No, they can't force it on because it's a decentralized network. It's open source software. So if you have hardware and you're able to run a node that basically decides the rules of the system,
you understand? Like people don't like that's what I'm trying to say. Is like it makes sense to me that
no, I'd say it's for the government to shut it down, they would have to go house to house.
I'm not saying shut it down, but people want to know if some guys somewhere can create Bitcoin. What's stopping our government from creating their own Bitcoin?
Nothing. They could try, but again, the value proposition is out the door as soon as they try it, because the whole proposition of Bitcoin is it's a decentralized peer-to-peer network without a central authority. Yeah. And again, it's
hard to wrap your head around sometimes.
Exactly. Again,
I mean, this shit's all hard. Like, there's no way anyone that acts like they know what they're doing and they're fucking smug about it is an idiot, because this shit is like, let's not act like no one, even the smartest of the smart people. What do we? I'd say maybe 100 people in the world know exactly what is going to happen.
Five, maybe five.
Five? Okay, I'll take your word on that.
Yeah,
it's probably five.
Yeah, maybe 5 people that completely understand it at like a technical level and how everything interacts with each other. And that's why I was saying, that's why I go back to Bitcoin, because you have the smartest people working on this protocol.
I guess that was one of our questions we had down too. It's like, we see all these blockchain companies and blockchain, and we're going to disrupt this industry with blockchain. Like, can we just be honest? Like, there's not enough developers, right? There's not enough developers to do this. There's not enough people. Like,
there's not enough competent developers.
Okay. I mean, there's not enough competent developers right now to build to build products in themselves. Like,
well, that's what Pierre was saying. Like, shipping a product like Barstool is hard in itself.
Yes,
shipping a decentralized protocol is orders of magnitude harder. Like,
yeah, I mean, it's fantasy land
and
stuff.
the people the people that are working on Bitcoin are people that literally built the infrastructure of the internet, like TCP/IP. Like, they come from this group of engineers, group of hackers that refer to themselves as the cypherpunks. And over the last 3 decades, they've been working on technologies that help privacy. They've been talking about digital cash since the late 80s. Like, this has been something that's been in the works for 3 decades, and in 2008, the 2 decades leading up to 2008, 2009, and they finally figured out how to make it work. Satoshi did, and now we're seeing this invention out in the wild.
I mean, just like thinking about like stock exchange, like people building out low latency, high frequency trading systems with fucking C++ and shit like that. There was only a couple thousand of those people.
Exactly. No, and that's what Bitcoin's written in, is C++.
In the world.
Yeah.
There's only a couple thousand of those people in the entire world.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah.
they would be like, and like to get someone to learn that or like know how to do that, like those guys were making.
These people are like on such a freak level of smart that like you can't even comprehend. Like,
I mean,
what they think about, like the attack vectors, they think about the scenarios they put together in their heads. Like, they think through this stuff so thoroughly. And again, a lot of people people like Bitcoin Cash dislike the core team because they won't accept their changes because they're not up to par. And that's why you have these people forking off, is because they tried to implement changes on the protocol, but the smart guys were like, not good enough. Mm-hmm. And that's why I caution people to getting into alts. I'm like, we don't know how these protocols work yet. We're not sure how they scale yet. And I'm pretty certain some Joe Schmo anonymous dev from the internet spinning up a blockchain is going to be able to do
So,
it.
like, do you put, like, I mean, let's take DeSantis. If you guys don't know this guy, Andrew DeSantis on Twitter, he's a madman. We follow him. Seems like a genius, though. Marty knows him. He's a genius. The kid's a genius. There's no doubt about it. Like, is he one of the people that you would consider, like, understands what he's doing? I assume so.
Yeah. Andrew, he's a genius. He's crazy, and I love him. I love his insanity. He actually started out. Apple hired him, I believe, when he was in college to try to hack their hardware, like figure out like where their systems were vulnerable. So he's on that level where Apple was confident in his abilities to hack their hardware, that they hired him to do that. So he's definitely a competent dev. He's working on something right now. He's saying he's going to launch it. I haven't seen it yet, but he definitely understands like Bitcoin at a very, very fundamental level, or not fundamental, but a very, like, he knows it in
technical
depth.
and high
Yes,
level.
yeah.
So it's like, and this guy, if you followed him, he's,
What's his at on Twitter?
I don't even know what it
At
is.
DeSantis, DeSantis.
All right, that'll be a must follow.
Yeah, but like, it's next level stuff. Like, you could follow him and he'll be tweeting about things. You'll be like, I don't know what's even going on here, but it seems like a genius.
Yeah,
Maybe
it's a lot of it's a lot of feelings with DeSantis. You're like, I don't know what he's saying, but like I can feel it.
Maybe we'll make it a segment where we just like take a few of his tweets and we try to like break
Andrew,
it down.
I doubt you're listening to this because I know you've been working a lot lately. But if you want to come on, this is an open invitation. I would love. I mean, when we met earlier in May, it blew my mind, the conversation that we had.
One of the other big questions I've gotten in the last week is a lot of people, even people in the office, like we have a lot of gamblers, a lot of degens in the office who just like the sweat of stuff, like the swings of stuff. And they've been saying to me, I feel like it's too late. I missed the boat on Bitcoin. It's too late.
People have been saying this to me since it was $200.
Exactly. So what I say is, I mean, I said I was going to get in at 550. I said I was going to get in at 800. I said I was going to get in at 4,200. It took me until 6,600 to get in. Would you ever tell somebody that it's just like too late on Bitcoin?
No. I mean, not until we hit hyper Bitcoinization.
Right.
It's like you got like multi-million-dollar Bitcoin. But yeah, I've been to. I mean, again,
I know we're not trying to give like financial advice and all that shit.
That's the hardest part about this.
Yeah, I know. I didn't mean to phrase it in a way that we're trying to influence people to do one thing or the other, but those are major questions that I keep getting. Oh, I feel like it's too late. One thing that I want to reiterate is please don't buy a full Bitcoin. Like 99% of people out there, please don't buy a full one. If you just want to get in for the sake of getting in, you can do a low amount.
Let me interrupt you here and throw out a little fact. Every millionaire in the world, if they wanted to buy one Bitcoin, wouldn't be able to. So if you do have a whole Bitcoin, you have a step up on most of the people in the world. But yes, if you can't afford it, do not buy one whole Bitcoin at once. Definitely average in. What I tell people is the dollar cost average in, set a set amount per paycheck, maybe $50 to $100.
Read a couple things about investment.
Yeah,
stuff like
Trading Wizards, that's a good one. But yeah, I'm always hesitant to be like, yeah, now's a good time to buy because I never know. Like tomorrow, like some news could come out, an exchange could get hacked, it could fall, and they'd be like, what the fuck, you told me to buy. But again, I always tell people long term, you got to be thinking 10 to 15 years out. If you want to get into this, just buy, put it on a personal wallet, forget about it. And that's why I say only invest as much as you can.
Yeah.
Because even if you're putting in $50 a paycheck right now, in 10 to 20 years, that $50 could be 50 grand.
And I come from like a poker background, and a lot of times you'll play at a table with, like some 22-year-old college kid who can't afford the game that he's playing in, so they'll play very passive. They'll be like pretty much just like draining their money away at the table, handing it over to people a little bit at a time because they're so scared. So never play with money that you can't afford to lose, and never invest too much of your net worth that you can't comfortably lose, because as much as Bitcoin's up right now, like, we have no idea what's happening tomorrow.
Exactly.
I mean, how would they stop Bitcoin? It'd basically have to be like a reverse of the banking system, right? Where the banking system would be like, we fucked up. We've fucked up a lot of shit. Like, we're going to fix it for you guys. Like, that's the only way I see Bitcoin move. Like,
No, because money, like, that's the thing. Like, so, again, we were born into a situation where we just expect, like, this is the way the world works. This is the way money works. I get dollars. I get a paycheck. I do this. Nobody really understands what money is at its core, like what a U.S. dollar represents. What it represents is debt. And we're getting to a point where after Bretton Woods, we were on a quasi-gold standard until the 1970s, and we went off of that, and since that, we've had, the value of the dollar has dropped precipitously. And it's gotten to a point in the way the value of the dollar drops is the Treasury gives the banks Treasury bonds, and then the Federal Reserve prints cash and buys those bonds from the banks, and those bonds are basically debt that we have to pay back in the future. And it's gotten to a point, in my opinion, people will argue this, that we are never going to be able to pay back that debt. Like, it is an insurmountable amount. We are basically just paying off interest on that debt, and not even at some point we're not even going to be able to pay off the interest because we've created so much money. And that's what Bitcoin is, a reversion to a sound money, where nobody's able to say, hey, we're going to print more Bitcoins. Like, it's highly unlikely that would ever happen to Bitcoin, because you'd have to have everybody on the network reach consensus that that's what they want to do. And that will never happen, because there's a very intolerant minority that is only in Bitcoin because it is sound money, and they will never let that happen.
okay, that makes complete sense. This is a great learning hour. Great learning hour. Nate, do you have any more questions? Because we're coming up on an hour. I'd like to keep this one under an hour.
Whew. I feel like this was like extremely informative. Man, trying to think if we had anything else to go down, but I guess the one other major thing. So the main place to buy Bitcoin right now is Coinbase, and on Coinbase you can buy Bitcoin, you can buy Ethereum, and you can buy Litecoin. Are you as high on the other two as you are on Bitcoin, just in your opinion? Because when people ask, how do I buy Bitcoin, you just send them a link to Coinbase.com. You see the 3 coins.
Yeah,
and it's like,
I get this all the time.
So what do you tell people? It's like, oh, what are these other two? Because right now Bitcoin's at 78, and Ethereum's 330, and I think Lite's at 70 or so. Obviously, you always want to diversify whenever you're investing in anything. How do you explain? We talk so much about Bitcoin. What about these other 2 big ones that trade on Coinbase?
Very good question. So Bitcoin, obviously the big dog. Litecoin, if you're going to make an investment thesis for Litecoin, it would be that it is a great test net for Bitcoin. So when people want to get new features incorporated into Bitcoin, Litecoin is actually usually the first chain to incorporate those features, basically to let people know, like, all right, it would be safe if we incorporated this on Bitcoin. And that sort of drives value towards Litecoin as a test net for Bitcoin.
So basically, like, basically Litecoin's is like their A/B testing platform for fucking Bitcoin.
It's like their D-League.
Not A/B, yeah. It's like their QA testing before it gets
sorry.
implemented into Bitcoin.
That's pretty valuable then at one point.
Yeah.
Not today, but like that would be valuable one day.
Yeah. And that's not its only use case, but that is one of its use case, which some would argue, maybe, myself included, that might be a good use case for Litecoin. Ethereum.
People always use the words smart contracts when it comes to Ethereum. Those are the big buzzwords.
Huge buzzwords. So I get a lot of shit for this, but I'm an Ethereum bear.
Deep Web Tim, when he gets
Deep
down
Web
in
Tim.
there,
Deep
he's
Web
gonna
Tim
kill
does
you.
not like me talking about Ethereum. I respect Deep Web Tim. I can't wait to speak to him about Ethereum. But being around since 2013, seeing like the run up to the Ethereum launch, and basically the promises they made before it was launched, what's happened since it was launched. I do not believe Ethereum is viable long term. They're very ambitious, which I appreciate, but I think their ambition may blind them to a certain extent because they're trying to do too much at once. They're very complex out of the box, which I don't think is a good strategy. And they're about to embark on a journey in the blockchain space that is very arduous, which is a transition from proof of work to proof of stake. So basically, the way the blockchain is secured, there's two popular ways to do it right now. Proof of work, which is computer resource intensive. You use an insane amount of computing power to basically secure the network and prove everything that's happened. Proof of stake is extensively less power intensive, but it is unfounded whether or not it is as secure. It can easily be gamed and co-opted. So a lot of people, including myself, would argue at this point. And Ethereum is trying to transition from proof of work to proof of stake, which is a task I would not want to take on. There's a huge amount of risk of doing that. And one being, so miners are making a lot of profit.
Do you think they might have the right idea and someone else will do it better?
No, I don't think they have the right idea because they're trying to blockchain the world, and
I see.
I don't think myself. I said it before. I'll say it again. I think we're trying to figure out how Bitcoin works. I don't think a Turing complete world computer virtual machine is advantageous right now.
That sounded like a line out of the Matrix.
Exactly. That's my beef with Ethereum. They're more marketing heavy than tech heavy,
Gotcha.
and they're selling pipe dreams to people.
That's why I asked that question. Is like, do they have the idea but not know how to do it, or is it just
So
or as you just said, is it just a marketing?
So
play?
that's another reason why I caution people away from alts, is because at the end of the day, Bitcoin's going to be able to incorporate whatever you innovate on your own blockchain. So there's this company, Rootstock, RSK, and they're basically working on implementing an Ethereum-like platform on top of Bitcoin. Like I was telling you, second-layer applications. This company, Rootstock, is promising to do what Ethereum can do, basically better on top of Bitcoin. So, yes, there are people that are...
Speaking of alts like that, how many
RSK
alts...
isn't an alt. It's not an alt. It's a
Okay.
project, yeah.
How many alts are just trying to pump and make money, and how many are actually trying to
99% are just pumping up.
So not very many are actually trying to
There's an incredible story.
Nobody's actually trying to make a difference in the alt world. They're just trying to get rich and sell.
Yeah, most people, and like I was saying, like 2013, 2014, it was heavy pre-mined alts that were pump and dumps. And what we had this year was the ICOs, or basically the next iteration
like
on
the
alts.
Snoop Dogg alt isn't trying to change the world.
Exactly. The Paragon weed, whatever the fuck that was.
Yeah, it's very interesting because the more you read about alts and crypto, and the deeper into crypto Twitter you get, it's all alts, and then you just have to take a step back and be like, this is just like a get rich quick
me
scheme
and Marty
in a way.
went to one ICO
Consensus.
company,
It was the Ethereum marketing arm. We went to one of their...
and that made me like, Nate, it would look worse than Milton's office. Nate, I pulled back. I was like, we're gonna go to this cool fucking place. And
It's the episode of South Park where they're playing World of Warcraft and they're just like shitting.
No, it was almost like if you think Barstool is like when we had Milton, but we were kind of blowing up and everyone was like, oh, this fucking huge company. I was expecting to walk into this fucking new age thing. It was a fucking shithole and everyone was just eating ramen. It was a shithole of an office. Sorry, guys, if anyone hears this, I don't care, but because I've worked in that environment. But I was like, holy shit! No one knows what the fuck they're doing yet.
It's amazing.
Let's take a step back and realize that one, I mean, I got caught up for a minute too. One, tech's hard; it's almost impossible to begin with, and two, this is brand new. No one knows what's going on yet. People need to realize that. If someone comes to you and they're like, we know this or we know this, you really don't know shit. Most people don't know shit yet. So, that's why we're just going to stay with Bitcoin. The Barons here, we're going to get I'm gonna give you guys final words. Let's just stick with Bitcoin for a little bit, Baron.
I think this was the best episode of this podcast to date. No bias.
The band's playing.
We got the band playing. This was a very good episode. We did have Innovator of the Year on last episode, but I think for everybody, all of our listeners, this has been the best episode to date because it's the most relatable. This is again, enter this market with caution.
Can you believe we have a band here that Nate just signed?
Nate signed.
Nate signed.
Nate doesn't even know the name of this
Baron,
band, and they got.
You want to know what? The Baron, they saw Nate's name come up on the blockchain. They were like, "We need this guy. He's blogging. He's buying Bitcoin. He's signing bands. What can't this motherfucker do?"
Oh, I'm so
all right,
confused
guys.
right now.
Everyone that's listening, please subscribe, review, tell us you hate us, tell us you
No.
love the Baron. Give us everything.
Nate, was this helpful at all for?
This was helpful to sit here and ask you the questions, and then I'm going to go back and listen to it again. And it's like, I think this is going to be like a 2-time listen episode just to let stuff sink in and just try to really continue to wrap my brain around like this world that we're living in right now.
It's a process. It's a learning process, and
I do want people who are listening to tweet us or email us, whatever, questions, comments. If you want anything us to touch on further.
I mean, the Baron may end up coming on a few times now.
Baron might be my new co-host. I've been looking for a co-host.
I mean, this isn't a bad triangle that we're sitting with right here.
But we're also going to get some smarter people than us in the room. We need I mean, not Marty. Marty's A+ guy. Me and you are fucking idiots.
Yeah, I'm
on a level playing field with you, but I'm gonna try and get some smart people.
I'm gonna for sure sit in on all of them because like all we can do right now is learn, and the more we know, the richer we get, the more boats we own.
Again,
boats, bands, Bitcoin. We're out.
Peace and love.